So we've had the opportunity to talk about stop losses. Now we're going to talk about protective options, particularly the protective put. And my favorite story, and you'll notice I've had to use an old chart here that's, look, what's this chart? 20 years old now, over 20 years old. So why would I keep a chart that's 20 years old around? Well, it's my favorite story to tell about this, and it's even more applicable today, I think. It's kind of like one of those, well, I'm not a wine drinker, I wouldn't know, but they say a fine wine gets better with age. I don't know if that's true. Here Yahoo is riding high, and this is before, I think it might have had it split. You can find other charts where it was even worse than this, but basically it loses all its value. Well, there was a wonderful article. Well, if I can bring that back, there was a wonderful article by Steve Kroft, who's now retired since then. And Steve Kroft was with 60 Minutes, and he's interviewing Mark Cuban. And Mark Cuban had this company called broadcast.com, and they broadcast like baseball games around the web, right? You're on vacation in Bali and you got an internet connection unless the Red Sox. I don't know how it worked. But his company had 15 million in revenue starting off, and then a year later, this thing took off, and he sells it for 5.7 billion in Yahoo stock. Right now, this is what's interesting. So he buys. He has this company. Well, he's got the stock way up here, and in this one, it loses all its money. Right, it has a huge loss here because it loses all. And 300 people, they have options and stock options. Everyone's killing it and all this. And Cuban senses the internet bubble's about to burst, and he made his shrewdest move. Well, we'll see if it was shrewd or not. But he starts unloading his Yahoo stock using a hedging strategy. This is important, that would lock in his profits. Now, earlier I said defend your chart, right? Defend your chart. Does it really matter why this went down? Well, there was a tech bubble, right? Well, big deal. But could it have been obsolescence risk? Could it have been anything else? So the idea here is with defending your chart and defending your prices, it doesn't matter what makes it go down. We just make sure that we can protect. So, a person can use an option right here, maybe a put option. And what does a put option give you to do? It gives you the choice to sell. That's, I don't know, I don't ever like using the word bulletproof. I don't know what bulletproof means, but I'll tell you this. If you have the choice, let's just say whatever stock this is, if you have the choice to sell at 20 or even 17.50 for that matter, right? You say, okay, $2.50 is all I'm willing to lose on this thing. If you have the choice to sell at 17.50, right? If it falls down to 196 before your option's over, that'd be a heck of a long-term option. But if you had these in place, it wouldn't matter how far down it would go. Maybe when it came down here, Cuban said, I'm selling. I'm selling up here. Maybe he didn't even ride it all the way down. Maybe it was a short-term option. But whatever it was, he locked in the profit of selling his company, so as it went down, he could get out of this. So this is called a protective put. Now, I have to go a little further on this, and maybe I'm beating a dead horse, but I get the biggest kick out of this is he had a shrewd move. Baloney. I'm going to kind of belabor this a little bit. Was it a shrewd move? Well, let me ask you this. Do you have insurance on your car? I mean, if you get in a wreck tomorrow, you're going to look like a genius, right? Oh, see? How amazing. How did you know? Okay, you have home insurance. Let's say your house burns down tomorrow. Now you look like a genius. So is it really shrewd to say, hey, things can go down if I have if you had a $5.7 billion diamond ring, would you insure it? Would that be shrewd? If you had a $5.7 billion mansion, would you insure it? Would that be against fire? Would that be shrewd? If you had, a $5.7 billion anything, what if you didn't buy insurance? Would that make you unshrewd, or would it just make you dumb, right? Would it make us dumb? So here's a couple ways we could say this. Let's say that Yahoo went up another $100. Well, this is what's funny. Then the article might say this. Then the article might have changed. Then maybe it says, oh, he had a company worth 15 million revenue. They sold it for Yahoo stock. But sensing that Yahoo would soar to even new heights, he made a shrewd move. He negotiated the sale of his company for stock instead of cash. So if it would have gone up, he would have looked like a genius because he didn't sell for cash. He sold for stock. If it goes down, he looks like a genius because he has insurance. So this boils down to this. If you buy a house and the house goes up in value, you look like a genius because it went up in value. If you buy a house and it burns down, but you bought insurance, you look like a genius because either way you win. Now, this makes me crazy that people don't understand that simple idea. If you have a 401k and it goes to the roof, you look like a genius. I'm so glad I put money in my 401k. If you put money in a 401k and it disintegrates, what do you say? Oh, damn market, stupid market. Well, did you insure your home? What's more likely to burn down, your home or your 401k? And so the fact that people, you can manage risk. Cuban did it, right? So why is it that a guy like Cuban, who's a billionaire, would engage in a hedging strategy? In this case, probably a protective put. It just makes no sense, right? If Cuban was sensing the internet bubble was about to burst, why did he invest in, or why did he do his stuff for stock instead of cash, right? You know, Cuban, sensing his house was going to burn to the ground, made a shrewd move. He bought insurance, right? It's just a simple thing. So let's pull Cuban off here, and let's look at how this might be done with even a KHC, right? With even this. You know, if I come in here and let's just bring up an Analyze tab like this. Let's get rid of all these orders in here and just get it down. And let's just say you owned it. So this is a, let's add a simulated trade. And let's say you owned it. And we owned it at, we're going to buy it. And our cost basis is $22.31. So that's what we bought it at. So our risk profile looks something like that. And I should probably, that like shows no loss here. So let's move it down right here. So this is where we are, and this is what we God, we don't even have what we paid for it on here. Look how much money we made. So this is our cost basis. This is actually how much money we have of our own money in it. And why? Because we've sold so many options that we've paid ourselves back for about a third of the money we've put in this. So by selling options, and I don't even know if that counts the dividends. We'll have to see if that figured in, because we've had 2 dividends we've collected on this over the past 8 months. And so, you know, this is what our risk graph looks like, right? We can move it over here and we can say, oh, isn't this nice? You know, this is our break-even point. Well, think about how we might, you know, defend this position. We don't need to defend it here and say, I don't want to lose a penny. We can go, and I'm just going to show you how, you know, we'll just pretend like we have 100 shares here. And let's just look, you know, over earnings. Do we have an earnings date on this? So here's earnings. Oh no, we got earnings for a while. So earnings is 3 months out. But let's just pretend this wasn't a dividend. Let's pretend earnings was coming, and it might gap up or gap down over earnings. We can see the personality of this stock. Let's do, you know, 2 years or something like that. You can see that on an earnings we could have this happen. This was a bad earnings announcement, right? Here was an earnings announcement. This stuff can happen. You don't want to go from 40 to 35 in one day, right? Over one of these earnings. Here's a little gap down on earnings, right? Here's a little gap up on earnings. So that's good stuff. So maybe what we say is, look, we just want to buy a week's worth of insurance, you know, this week. If we come out, we can get this for, and remember, this is going to be a 2000, you know, this is $2,231 if you had 100 shares. If you had 1,000 shares, you know, now it's $22,000 you're protecting here, but we'll just do 100 for this one. So great, $2,200. Well, think about this. If you want to lock this in just this week over earnings, for $32.50 and just have that whole $10 preserved, you can do that with 35 cents a share for 35 bucks. Would you pay 35 bucks to insure against a $5 drop to insure? Would you pay 35 bucks for 5 days to do this? Or maybe you're okay with 5 cents right here, or 7 cents at 31. So if it drops more than $1, you know, you're insured for 5 cents. So that'd be $5. Would you spend $5 over a week of earnings to do that? Why people do not do this, I have no idea. That'd be a protective put. Now, maybe you want to go further out. Maybe you really say, no, they got a lot of debt. There's all this problem. You know, maybe you want to go out a little bit. You could do that. You know, our cost basis is $22.31, so we could insure at 20. That'd be a $2 loss. We'll shave the spread. We'll go $22.50, shave this spread, and $22.50 minus what would the mark be on that? 20 cents. So for 20 bucks, we get it at cost basis for till April, which would be, you know, how many months from now? Let's see, December, January, February, March, April. For 6 months of insurance. It's not that expensive to do, especially when you got a sick cost basis. Now, that'd be expensive because that's going to take some out of your profits. But if you learn this thing of getting in with good cost basis, the further up it goes, the more, you know, you can take a bigger deductible, so to speak, and have a premium. But we can insure every dime we have in this stock. So now our loss is, oh crap, we've lost our earnings on this for the past, you know, 8 months we've been getting, but we didn't lose any of our principal. And what does Buffett say? Rule number 1, don't lose money. So we could lock in our profits over an earnings short term for a few cents, and we could do this here. You know, let's say we bought these. Okay, let's say we buy these, and let's say we buy them for that 20 cents right here. And let's say the strike is $22.50. You know, if you look at that risk profile now, look at this. This is our cost basis, and if it falls below that, we don't lose any money. We don't lose any money. So it makes our risk graph look like, okay, if it goes up, we make more. If it goes down, we lose a little. But if there's something tragic, we don't lose any of our original money. See that? If there's something tragic, if there's over the next 4 months, if something goes crazy, you know, wonderful. We'll lose 20. You know, we lose what is that? You know, $20 or whatever it is. It's just not much. I can't even read it. It's so small. So that's what you can do. You know, those are some of the things you can do. That's a good example of a protective put to protect things. And you can play with it. You know, you can, it's the same decisions of insurance. The bigger the deductible, the smaller the premium. But I like my personally risk graphs where I don't lose any of my money's invested. Look, to have the idea that it's perfect. Look, when I have to go and I had my radiation treatments for cancer, my insurance covered a lot of that, but I still had some out-of-pocket costs. Insurance isn't to make you money necessarily, and it's not even to get you out scot-free. It's just to avoid the devastating blow. We're investors. Right here, it would really be lame to have this drop to 26 and give half that money back. It would be. But, you know, there you go. Now watch this. This is interesting stuff. We can go forward to April when this is, April 18th. And you'll notice here's the standard deviation where it thinks it will be is in this range. So it can either go up here or go down here, right? I might make more. I might make less than what I have on this. You know, I've got more shares than this. But it's not even close to where my insurance is. Fine, great. You know, great. That's where it's probably going to hang out, is somewhere in that area. And I'll keep writing. I got 4 months to keep writing, you know, calls out here. Won't be much, but they probably won't get called out. and I'll just drop that cost basis lower and lower and lower and improve my position, make it stronger. This looks like control to me. I don't know. I can't control the stock, but I control whether I give my money all away. See that? Risk is related to control. I can't control the stock, but I can sure as heck control my insurance. Look, even a real estate guy can't control the market, whether it goes up or down, but he can control whether it catches on fire by buying insurance, right? Notice that if I take where the stock is right about now, that it's almost, it's a little bit skewed. It's almost what, 50-50. It's almost 50-50. 56 chance, 48 chance, whatever it is. Interesting stuff. If we put this here, here's my 50-50 mark. So, if whose 401k looks like that, right? I'll either make more money, lose a little of what I've made, but I'm not losing anything that I put in, not losing a dime that I put in. I've already got back a bunch of the money I put in by writing options. That's a great cost basis right there. 2231 is where our cost basis is. That's our deal. So hopefully that's helpful. I'm going to play a little section now of the Mentor Club. If you haven't been in the Mentor Club, we're going to take these things because, who knows how, I'll redo this, about every 5 years is probably a good rule of thumb, something like that. Maybe more, maybe less. It depends on how it goes. But the Mentor Club is nice because it's every week and it's current. So you come in here to learn these concepts and then you get to apply them over and over. Let's watch some Mentor Club with Noah Davidson doing a protective put. Let's see what that's like.
I'm still super, super excited about this UPS trade.
Yeah, let's look at that.
So this was
and
our
your
ratio.
Lululemon trade's not a bad trade.
Yeah, Lulu, this was just a protective put, long stock with a protective put. The insurance is costing us money.
Let's take a look at that. That's a really important trade to look at. Lululemon.
Well, it's a really probably an underrated way to trade. If you are an experienced investor and you got some capital, this is one of those things where it works best if you got a little bit of capital to work with. Buying 100 shares of a $193 stock, that ties up some capital, right?
Yeah, it does.
Buying that protective put, we spent $1,200 on insurance to protect that. And what that gives you is fixed risk. I mean, you can own an asset. You have downside risk limited, and then you have unlimited upside potential. And we've got this protection clear through March. And my thought was really simple, Andy. I thought, well, Lulu is a pretty good retailer. And I know it's got a pretty good retail presence, and we're heading into that fourth quarter.
See that little candle you're on right there?
Yeah.
That's Marcy Tanner buying Lulu right there. That's my wife. My wife will keep them in business single-handedly. I'll tell you what, if you go back to that risk graph, I think this is worth talking about a little bit. We got a little time to talk about this. So if you're starting to get more familiar with the risk graph, this looks a lot like a call option. And if you put a call option risk graph next to a stock option or a regular stock, long stock risk graph, it's visually very appealing because it's like, okay, in one of them I have this upside and this downside. In this other one I have this nice upside, but this limited downside as it levels off as it goes down. And someone says, well, what's not to like about that? Well, the problem with a call is like the milk in your fridge, there's an expiration date on that, and someday that milk will be worth zero, so you better drink it or make your buttermilk pancakes or whatever you're going to do with it before it expires. Whereas a stock does not expire. So what's really nice about this is you have some protection that will expire, but your stock doesn't expire. So here, for a little bit of cash, you get a chance to get that open-ended upward movement closed down with a stock that won't expire. And certainly your option will, but that's a nice feeling to have, dude. That's pretty cool.
Well, and it's a relatively conservative way to trade. And what's kind of a fun thing, Andy? So this is something that I kind of figured out. I don't know if it's always the case, but if you were to take that same trade today, if you liked Lulu setup and you thought it was going to go up today, this is one where you can usually figure out that there's an efficiency in the market. So these have already, fired off. So I'll take these out of the equation and just say, well, if I wanted to go buy a call versus buying the stock, say we went and bought April options. So an April option, we could just go, right here at the money and buy let's buy an in the money 190 call. So we buy that, and that would cost us $2,895, and the risk graph is going to look just like our.
In fact, what would be cool to do is if we do this and we do a little detachment. I don't mind having a little detachment once in a while. And
there you go.
And then we do this. We do a little detachment, and we detach that baby. Now what we can do is we can play around with a little side-by-side action right here.
Yep.
And what would be fun to do, perhaps, just for educational purposes here, is let's see, is this my call that you just put in?
That's the one I just put in. That's the same on both of them. Yep.
Okay, so let's look at some of these numbers here. So my risk here is minus 2178. That's the most I can lose if I have the stock and buy the put. And this one here is 2800. And this is for one contract. So this is 100 shares of stock on this side. This is 100 shares of stock on this side. So this one, would it be fair to say that this is about $700, well, about
$800. A
$800.
little bit more risk. Well, this one's a little longer term. This one goes out to April.
Yeah.
And, our stock and option over here is March protection.
But let me ask you this. Does Lulu pay a dividend?
I don't believe they do.
Nope,
no dividend. Yep.
Let's pretend that they did. Which one pays your dividend? The stock with the put or the call?
Stock with the put.
Well, there you have it. So if you have a one that you want to play the dividend on, and another thing you could do is, let's say you just wanted to hold it, you were nervous about earnings. Well, what's going to happen is because you have this little purple line comes into effect a little bit, and that kind of might soften it just a little bit more, because as your stock falls over bad earnings, your put increases in value, which in my pea brain would soften the blow a little bit. So anyway,
yeah,
kind of a nice side by side example.
Well, here's what I want to show you, Andy. Is I wanted to show the stock versus that's
this is a cool thing. I've been redoing a lot of the 4 pillars investing. I'm going to work harder to make that more dynamic, and when I find something cool like this to update, I think I might throw this in the risk management section as an example of a protective put.
Yeah,
because it's a good example.
So here's what I wanted to demonstrate. That was a 190 call option.
Yeah.
So if we did the same trade on this side, we'll do the stock over here on the left here, and I bought the 190 protective put, and we compare and contrast the cost of buying the stock and buying the insurance, and then we compare the Greeks here and the risk graphs. They're going to be extremely similar. So now this is 100 shares of the stock at the current price, 204.32, and protection at 190.
Which means, let me just put this in simple terms. That means that we're buying it at 204, and 190 is about $14.32 below that. So basically what we're saying is, look, if this thing were to take a bath and something awful were to happen to Lululemon, no matter, even if the thing went bankrupt, we could still sell this at 190, even if the stock went bankrupt. So we're basically buying at 204. We're drawing a line in the sand at 190, and we're protected, right? Do we want to squeeze that over to compare some stuff?
So here's the beauty of it. So once
we're fighting over the ego a little bit.
You go ahead and
we both have mouse control, so there we go.
So you got $2,677 risk here.
Yeah.
with that position. And then let's see if we can spot the Greeks on that. The delta is about 67
Yeah.
compared to just the long call, which has $2,865 risk.
Let's get our price slice in there.
And it's got a delta of about 67.
67.
So buying the call, and I assume if I were to split the spreads on this, I'd probably get it a little bit better. Like if I were to come in, I'm not sure what the bid ask spread is on that.
Hit edit and see.
28.15. So shave it down a little bit. So 28.15. There's an efficiency in the market that, if you were to look at, again, buying that call versus
took it away because you took it away, but you got to analyze it now. There you go.
There we go. Okay. So cost, $2,800 for the long call. And it gives you essentially the same delta, 67, and then your negative time decay is 642 compared to the stock with the insurance. And again, I could probably, that's that 2,674. So really about $130 difference between the two.
Yeah.
But look at the Greeks, 67, and the theta is -5, and the risk graphs look almost identical. The stock, if you had a company that paid a dividend, you'd collect the dividend. You'd own the stock; it never expires. Yep. But you get the same risk profile as you do when you buy a protective, speculative call versus long stock protective put.
And if you pull off, just to give people a sense, pull off the protective put, uncheck that so they can see the regular risk graph. So here you can see at 140, you're down $6,000. Whereas on the other one, it could go to 140, you're only down 2,800. So you have the upside of a stock, but the downside of a stock. You throw on that protective put, go ahead and click that, and now you flatten out that. Let me, we'll just put this right here. Now it flattens out your downside risk to where you can see, it can go to 190 and that's it. After that, you can sell at 190 no matter what. And so you can't lose any more than that, because even if it's 170, you get to sell at 190. Even if it's 160, you get to sell at 190. Even if it's 140, you get to sell at 190. So it really affects your risk profile.
Yep.
So
that's pretty cool. And then
risk management.
Yeah. All right. So now one last position I want to show and tell is that back ratio on.
Before we leave Lululemon, so where are we P&L on that?
P&L on Lululemon, we are up $539.
$539.
Not too bad.
Yeah. Protected.
And then let's see here.
Any temptation? Let me ask you this: now that you're up in the trade, $500. Is there any temptation to pull off that insurance now and switch to just a plain exit, where maybe you sell back your insurance for what it's worth now, get that money back that you paid, and then just move it up to a break-even stop loss?
That's not a bad idea. That would alleviate some time decay. It would keep your insurance cost down. So now that you're ahead, we could.
Now that we're ahead, we have a little cushion. We say, you know what? How much is our insurance still worth? We spent $1,280.
$600, $700, I think.
Yeah, it's going to be worth a lot less. But you know what?
We can offload it for $785.
So yeah, we'll buy that, or we'll sell that off. We'll get $785 for it, and then we can just switch from using a protective put to a stop loss now that it's rolled up. So.
Hey, we got filled there.
I don't have good ideas very often, so if I have one,
occasionally it works.
Once in a while, the brain goes. So that's Lululemon and the protective put. Now that we've got it moved up, we can switch risk management strategies, right? That'd be a good little insert for the 4 pillars, I think, in the risk management pillar. I think we'll put
let's do that.
Do a little bonus video from Noah Davidson and the power of the Mentor Club. So hopefully, what's cool about that is if we bring back up Mark Cuban, we've talked about some of the stuff Warren Buffett does in terms of dividends and cost basis. Well, we're doing it. We've talked about Buffett in terms of selling puts to acquire stock. We're doing it. Now we've talked about billionaire Mark Cuban protecting himself And here in the Meta Club, we're doing it. These strategies are not hidden away exclusively for the billionaire. They are there for anyone to learn that would like to do it. So hopefully the risk management, I don't want to get too much iron in my voice, but I am dedicated to people managing risk, and I'd just be sick if someone didn't take this serious, because as our disclaimer always says, investing has risk. And so the purpose for this fourth pillar, risk management, is to learn, a little bit of what these risks are, how to defend this stuff, play defense. And one of the great ways to do this is like Mark Cuban did with what we call the protective put. And a protective call, if you're short, what's your problem if it's short? Well, it's going to go through the roof. So you need to be able to buy back and protect yourself there. So it just makes sense between these, look what we've done with just these two is, if we have good risk rewards, that helps us. If we have a stop, that can help us. And, protective put, it's in stone. I hate using the word bulletproof, but, if we said, look, we can sell at this price, we can sell at this price. And you'll notice in that Lululemon example from the Mentor Club, we took a protective put early, worked out. Oh, great, let's move it up into a stop loss order now. And we won't have to spend as much money on insurance. So those are the games you play. Now, when we come back, I'm going to talk to you about hedges. We can do a little bit of non-correlating assets, and I think with that we might take a look at, maybe I'd invite Corey to do one of these with me. But I think before we're done here, we'll recruit Corey to come because he is the risk management expert. But when we come back, we're going to talk about hedges.